one thing that I've been scared to share is just about wanting more quality time. And that scared me because I was kind of nervous about that feeling not being reciprocated. That like you were kind of satisfied with not sharing time with me. That you just didn't want to. I didn't want to face that.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Both Sides of the Bed.
Welcome back.
It feels good to be back.
It feels damn good to be back.
Yeah. And I know y'all wondering where the hell we've been at. We're going to get to that. But first, Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome to 2023. It's going to be an amazing year. I feel good.
It better be an amazing year.
It better be an amazing year.
It's definitely going to be, though. I intended it, and we put in the work to make it so.
Yeah. 2022 was a hell of a ride. These last few years have been a hell of a ride. You
know that meme where it's this white dude, and he just like...
Yeah.
It was like one where he like closed his eyes, and it was like 2019. And then... by the time he opened them again, it was like 2023.
You just closed it, just try to get
2020 to 2022 was just black.
That's how I am with crazy high roller coasters. I just close my, like that drop, I'm closing my eyes. I don't experience none of it. I'm just trying to get through. Just trying to get through. Just trying to get through that shit. And that's how it felt at times. But other times, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
You know, we got the show. And I guess I didn't realize how much I missed it until not having it these last few months.
Yeah, I was, that sucked.
It did suck.
It really sucked. It was something that we worked so hard to build, and then it just became overwhelming to a point where we just had to stop. Like life was just hitting us, much like 2020 to 2022 does.
Right.
So yeah, so much has settled now. So much is coming. And I'm really excited to just be back on the mic, be back to having these really deep conversations with you and with our audience. And I think it's just going to be an incredible year.
Absolutely. So without further ado, what the hell have we been up to? Ladies and gentlemen, we didn't like each other for a little while.
We didn't.
We didn't. The love was always there. Strong love.
Sex was still good.
Sex phenomenal. Like we have never come on here and lied to y'all. Absolutely not. Our sex life has been amazing, always amazing. But we've learned, I guess, through this time that it's not enough, and you can kind of get distracted by how good the sex is, because how consistently good it is, and just how we just understand each other on such a deep level when it comes to our intimacy. You could be blinded by that and not realize how off other areas of your life are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that with us, when it comes to sex, it's our way of communicating. It's our way of connecting. It's our way of prayer. And it's this beautiful thing that just constantly grows and is constantly blooming into just these incredible experiences every time. Like, what was it, yesterday? I was just like, damn, that was like top 4. And then you were like, there's like 100 in the top 4 right now.
100 top 4s.
So yeah, like our sex life has never wavered, and our love has never wavered. Our like for one another that has been a little rocky.
Yeah.
I feel like we're good now, though.
We're in a really good place. We still have work to do. Absolutely. For sure. We always have work to do. But with us having a podcast where we talk a lot about sex, it isn't just that. Just to remember, like, this podcast is more than that.
Sex and relationships.
And relationships. And so we've had a lot of time to talk about sex because it was a lot of that happening. But it is important to also touch on the other side, because without a strong relationship, you can't truly have really amazing sex as a whole and feel fulfilled. Yeah. You know what I mean? We were having great sex and still there was a void.
Yeah.
And there was still sadness and hurt and anger and frustration and yada, yada, yada. That I think probably prevented us from having even better sex.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're going to kind of shift the conversation and talk more about our relationship, and taking this time to actually tell the story of us and let you all know who we are from the beginning and how we came to be as a couple and how we came to put this podcast together. So yeah, let's talk about our humble beginnings. So we met at the end of January 2020.
January 24th. No, January 22nd.
January 22nd.
Yes, we met the day before my sister's birthday. Shout out to Samia.
Okay. Oh, right. Yes, and we met online. We met on OkCupid. And I guess that's when we still were trending towards more traditional monogamous styled relationships. I guess that was where we were. Well, no, because we weren't in relationships. We weren't seeking that. And by the time we got together, we didn't really stay in that place too much.
In monogamy?
Yeah, we didn't even. I don't think we ever even really got a chance to venture into that.
I don't think we never really had a real conversation about monogamy. Was never a discussion.
No, not really. So,
open relationship, DS dynamic. Those were many of a conversation. I don't think we ever once was just like monogamy.
Okay, so scratch that. There was no talk of monogamy. But I remember the first night we went out, we went to a jazz club, and it was crazy, like that love at first sight. I didn't recognize it at that moment. That's what that was. Yeah. But it was just like this, like I saw you were reading something on the wall, and then you turned around and looked at me in your bright pink coat, and it was just like this, home. It just felt right. I don't know. I can't really explain it any other way than that, but it just felt right. And then, we went and got our tickets for the show and everything, and then just enjoying each other's company. And it was just like off rip. It was just
Before we went and got our tickets, we had to go to the ATM. And I remember walking with you, and you were just kind of like being led by you. Just felt really natural. Mm-hmm. And then I remember standing in line so that the person can take our money and your money, and I just hugged you just while we're standing in line. This is probably a strong 10 minutes of knowing one another in person, and I just wanted to be held by you, and you accepted it, and it just felt good.
Yeah.
That home feeling you were just talking about, that's exactly what that felt like. I felt safe, I felt home, I felt protected. And I've felt that way ever since.
Same here. Yeah. It's never left. So the night went well. We were really vibing with each other well. And definitely took it back to the crib.
Yeah.
We took it back to the crib, had a good night.
We always have this back and forth on whether or not you asked. You never asked.
I thought I asked casually.
Very assumed. I definitely went with it.
Well, that's how much we were trending in that way.
Yeah.
It was
never a question. It was like, do you want to come over? It was just like,
that's what we're doing.
We're going to this train. We were going on the one.
I don't remember which train.
It was the one.
Nah, I don't remember. It was like an AC.
No, it was not, because I travel on the.
Oh, right, because that's when I was living in East Flatbush.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're going on the one. I was like, I'd have no idea this route, but this seems like a great idea.
Let's do it. And we were already kind of getting into our roles at that way. You just really inspired the leadership in me, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I am.
Yes. But yeah, we got back to the house, and then got into some sexy times. And at some point, one way or another, I'm balls deep. I'm going hard. We doing our thing. We hot, heavy eye contact, just
strong
connected. Just loving it. And then you tell me, what did you tell me? Do you remember?
You can say it. I'm not saying it.
Why are you not saying it?
I'm not saying it.
Some version, I'm paraphrasing at this point, but it's some version of, I want you to own me. Just own me. Just fucking own me. And you just said it so passionately. And it was just like, yeah, I want to fucking own you. Yes.
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. It was just like, hell yeah. Like your mind just in that moment just made that decision. And it just felt right. And it wasn't something I was looking for. Like I wasn't looking to be in any dom sub dynamic for real. Like I was playing.
Neither was I.
I didn't have a lot of experience with it. I played around with it, and I topped a few partners before, but cheers to that. Let's say it. Cheers to that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But yeah, I never really had experience with being a dom for anybody, but that just pressed a button inside me, and just this light went off, and it was just like, yeah. But I knew enough about it to be able to navigate the basics. And I'm a researcher, so once I start getting into something, no matter what it is, even if I'm getting into a relationship, I'm always trying to learn how to be better in my relationships. So I kind of dove into that and took it serious when you said that. Even like how to approach it in a serious way as something I wanted to venture into and be able to tell you, yeah, I want to get into this and this is what it's about, and be able to articulate it properly. And you went right with it.
For me, what led me to that was the breath work we did. And that's a tantric practice. I didn't know this at the time. I've never done this before. I hadn't even heard of it before this moment. And you just asked me to like breathe into you. So essentially I'm inhaling his exhales and vice versa. And it was just one of the most invigorating, one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had. And I was just like enamored and just wowed by you and that experience and just the fact that you knew that. And I knew then that like this was different. This wasn't just some fling. This wasn't just like a one night stand. That this was very different. And that's what inspired that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It also like made me like realize like how deep sex can go.
Yeah.
Like I've never, the type of fulfilling and mind altering sexual experiences I've only had with you. And that was really just like the gate opening to just like these new types of experiences that I just didn't even know existed, which is what inspired the Own Me, because that was not intentional. It wasn't just something I say in bed.
It was definitely, I remember I asked you, I'm like, have you done this before? It was like, oh, you do this and you found your new dom. And you want him to be like, you want to be owned now, but you had experience. It was definitely like, you've definitely done this before. It was crazy.
Not. I've known about it, but even in that moment, that wasn't even crossing my mind. So. Yeah,
well, shit. You inspired the hell out of me. So we got into it. We made the decision like right then and there. All right, we're gonna do this and let's figure it out. But again, being honest, neither of us really knew what the fuck we were doing. Not really.
Well, I was extraordinarily high when you asked me.
Yeah. But even beyond, like even after, like once just regular days happened.
No, I mean like my initial like, yes, like I wasn't really, it's not that I wasn't understanding, but like, I don't know, when I'm high, just on anything, I'm just more open. So just the idea was just like, I have no idea what you're talking about right now, but this seems like a great idea. Like this seems like at least I'll try it once.
Well, maybe that was the first mistake, just going with it without having some foundational conversations about what the fuck we're about to get into.
Yeah.
Even I was so gung-ho and not fully understanding the responsibility that comes with it.
Yeah.
And only thinking about more of the fun parts. And it's all fun. Even the challenges of being able to lead somebody and being able to be accountable for them and yourself. They're all challenges, but it's beautiful challenges. But neither of us knew what was required of us on each of our sides to be able to navigate this properly. So it was all fun and cute for a little while when we had no issues or anything. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, a lot of cute. Yeah. For, I would say, a solid 3 to 4 months. That first 3 to 4 months, we were just in La La Love Land. And COVID happened by this time. So we're a few months into COVID. So
yeah, it was longer than 3 to 4 months.
But I'm talking about the pure blissed out, no nothing came up. It was because remember that first shroom trip? Yeah. And that was,
I remember.
I'm just saying. So that was around that time. But then after that, when that happened, just to bring that up, I think what that brought up for us was that there's some shit that needs to be worked out within ourselves.
Yeah.
Our own shit is coming up and is manifesting in a way that is just fucking just chaotic and just clashing.
Chaos is definitely the word.
And we didn't know all the details, but we knew there's some shit here. What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's, people say all the time, like you really don't work through your own stuff and your own traumas and your own whatever until you're in a relationship. And that's why a lot of relationships don't last, because you are learning yourself in this new way with this person who is also learning you for the first time. So it's almost like you're both learning this one person and vice versa. And that was definitely the experience that I had for me, where all this stuff was coming up for me just about my life and my experiences that, one, that I just suppressed, and two, that I just fully didn't give time to understand, grieve, whatever. So I was learning myself with you, and I don't want to say broken, but I was just very ignorant to me.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I finally feel like I'm at a place where I fully know myself. I fully know my desires. I fully know my passions in life, the trajectory I'm going into. But that took a lot of work, that you were just by my side figuring it out, but that wasn't easy. Chaos is definitely the word.
Yeah. And then on my side, and I don't know if I've said it to you in this particular way, but I think the initial challenges that came up for me is in learning certain things about you that at the time were just very, not shocking, I don't think that's the word, but I guess that's the closest word, just based on the paradigm that I had available to me at the time in terms of what's okay and what's not, and how in the past, how I would judge others for the lifestyle choices that they would make, and having to be faced head on with things that were uncomfortable for me, or just how I would view them in the past with other people in a very unhealthy way. I had to confront all that shit. And in hindsight, it was beautiful, and I'm grateful to have had to push through all the bullshit and come out on the other side okay. But it was a lot to like, oh, okay, well, this is you. And having to accept those things and understanding that there was nothing even wrong with them. It's just bullshit that I was taught and trained on in my life that I deemed was not okay and acceptable for others. It bred a lot of insecurities within me, which made me go about our dynamic in a certain way, which made me make certain decisions about our relationship in general, like with money and things like that, and just having to feeling like I had to step up and be and do certain things to make sure everything's okay, or to prevent things from happening. You know what I'm saying? So it was a lot of that, and it didn't allow me to be free and just present with you and just happy. I have all this nonsense in my head that's making me make decisions, so I can't show up fully, and I can't fully be my happy self, my just positive good self, because I got these insecurities on my shoulders. So that was a big thing that I had to shake. And it took quite a while. I thought it was good, and I'll be all right for a second, and then just there'll be a lot of ebbs and flows with that. And you felt that probably consciously and unconsciously.
Yeah, I definitely felt the lack of comfort and the judgment.
Yeah.
And I remember having a really good talk about that one night, and like really facing it and figuring out like, okay, this is what we're dealing with, and trying to figure out how we can move forward and if we can move forward. And that was really beneficial for me, just, fully understanding where your head's been at. And it made things make a lot more sense. But going through it and experiencing it without that knowledge was really hard, because I didn't really know like what was wrong, or what was wrong with me, or what was wrong with me in your eyes. So it just made it very, very hard to connect, and very hard to just kind of feel like I'm safe to be myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think in us both having to work through these things, it took a lot of our energy away from us being able to develop our dynamic in a proper way, to be able to learn each other, to be able to learn about just how to do it and grow and evolve in a way that's enjoyable and is healthy and productive.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were focusing on the fun stuff, but we weren't doing the foundational work. We weren't able to communicate in depth what our expectations were of each other. we're expecting things from each other, but not fully communicating what our expectations are. So of course the other person wasn't able to meet those expectations, and also not being able to rise fully in our roles as a dom, as a sub, fully to be able to do it properly. And so it was just a lot of bumping heads and just a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of friction and a lot of arguments because we just were not able to get on the same page.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that even deciding, like I decided I didn't like the word and I don't like the word expectation. And we kind of moved towards like, these are our wants and needs. And for me, that shift was really helpful because it made me kind of prioritize certain things in a way and able to articulate things that I need prioritized and in what order. Because expectation, it just always felt, I don't know, like something a principal would say to you.
I mean, I get it. It doesn't have to feel like that. It doesn't feel like that for me.
That's what it ended up being.
Because it's an important word for me. I feel like you should be able to expect and rely on people important to you for certain things. I should be able to expect. Just like I expect the sun to come up in the morning, I expect us to be in a relationship tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like some basic expectations. And so I personally don't have a problem with the word. I understand where you're coming from. And that's language that we can shift if it still really continues to be a problem.
It's not a problem.
But there's not a million expectations.
There's not.
It's not.
I'm just saying, like, in the thick of it, that was just very weighing on me. Also because, like, as you said, when we first began this dynamic, we didn't know much. And my definition of submission looked very different from your expectations of submission. And it looked very different from just like the research that I was doing. And I finally feel like I'm settling into what the definition is for me and what my submission looks like and how to embody that and what my boundaries are surrounding it. Like I know in the beginning it was very boundless and very like all encompassing. Like there's so many different types of submission. There's like a service sub, which I am not. I can't even think of another one right now, but there are many different. Do you have them coming to mind?
Yes, there's many types, but I just want to touch on it because I'm glad that you said that. Because I envisioned subs. I envisioned there being one type of sub that does multiple different things in different. No, hell no. It's many different types. Okay. But initially, I thought there's like being submissive, and when being a sub, you do these things, you do these things, you do these things, and you do these things. That's not how it works.
No.
There are very different versions of it, and so initially, I thought service was absolutely a part of all submission.
Yeah.
And so I didn't vocalize to you, I'm expecting a service sub. And a service sub is basically someone who enjoys, even gets off on serving in whatever way it is, whether it's cleaning, whether it's just being there to just do whatever you want, just being there in full service. They enjoy that, just that alone, without expecting anything in return. So I remember very early on, you were at the house, and I remember I went to work that day, and you cleaned the shit out of my house. Like, you cleaned the shit out of my apartment. And so I'm like, oh, okay, this is about to be my life. Great. I have my crib clean. This is great. She did some organizations, helped structure some shit. I was like, okay. She's bringing something to the table. Like, yeah, this is what I want. And so I guess I did expect some version of that to continue, but also to continue in the way that I wanted and not what you wanted.
Not even what I wanted, but what I was capable of.
But what you want, like the way you like the house to be clean, for instance, or like where you would like to place things. Okay. It was those kind of things. And so it was a lack of my ability to tell you what I was expecting fully, and a lack of you being able to do it the way that I wanted, because you had another agenda of how you preferred it to be. And so like that, I think that is a great way to just summarize how a lot of things went in a lot of different areas with that kind of.
That was the biggest one that like really plagued our relationship for a long time.
Yeah.
Because like I said this to you recently, I I cleaned your apartment for selfish reasons. Like,
right.
It was not for you as much as you benefited from it. I need a really clean space in order just to function at a high level. And your space wasn't clean enough for me.
My space was clean. It wasn't clean enough for her.
Again, it wasn't dirty. It just wasn't like my standard that I need if I'm going to be in a space a lot.
Right.
And I knew from the jump, like, I'm going to be here a lot. So, like, I'm going to create a space that I can be in a lot and be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he wasn't a slob or anything like that. Very clean, just a little unorganized. I just feel like that part that really plagued our relationship and the expectations that you had that you also didn't articulate, and my just capacity to serve. Like, there was just this umbrella term of submission that you knew about and that you expected, and the only thing that I knew about it was kind of what you told me. And I am not as good as a researcher as you are. I've gotten better in being with you, but at the time I wasn't researching heavy into it, so it was kind of just like I was doing what you were telling me to, which is a really bad way to go into a DS dynamic. So it was just really hard. I just kind of kept feeling like I was just always doing something wrong. Like, this is just not something that I'm capable of doing. But really what it was is I wasn't capable of submitting in the type of way that you were wanting me to. Because as there are so many different types, it's like, what resonates with you? That doesn't come naturally to me. Serving someone in that way. Helping to maintain a home, helping to make your life easy. Absolutely, I would love to do that. I'm your person. And that's a very different type of thing than being a service sub.
Right.
So I don't know. I just think that expectation really messed us up for a while until we were able to identify that.
Yeah. And I think the biggest challenge in all of it is that we immediately went into a 24/7 dynamic. So that means 24/7, 365, all day, all night, we're in it. So there's no ability to take a breath. Yeah. And I think because we were both so new and figuring it out, we should have been able to maybe allocate certain hours of the day to be in that headspace.
We're in COVID.
So we're always together.
24/7.
That's what it was. That was too much. It didn't allow us the space to turn it off and just be. So I'm getting exhausted trying to do it, and you're getting exhausted trying to do it.
Yeah, and I was also fearful of if I didn't do it that this wouldn't work.
Because remember we were like, yeah, of course we will have a dynamic, because that just, like, how else would we do it? And it just felt like, well, this is the way we're doing it. It just felt so natural. Yeah. And it still does. And it's still true. This is the way that we should have our relationship, based on our personality types and based on our desires and needs. But and you gotta know how to do it the right way.
Yeah, and I feel like we're finally figuring that out. Like, we've already identified what our needs, what our wants are, and now it's just really about getting into a proper flow of things. I think foundationally we have our relationship, and in the beginning we didn't have that. Like, right. Our relationship was founded on the DS dynamic.
Right.
So now we have the relationship as a foundation, which is an amazing starting point, because regardless of, I think before it was, if this DS dynamic doesn't exist, then we don't exist. Yeah. And that fear of that was really messing me up. Whereas now it's like, regardless of if that exists, the love is here. That foundation is strong.
Right.
So building on top of that to create this dynamic that really works for us, that really caters to what our needs are, what our desires are, and what capacity can we live in that. I think that's what we're cultivating now, and it feels so beautiful and it feels so natural, and I'm really grateful for it. And I'm really grateful that we also took the time for trial and error. Yeah. As much as it sucked going through it, because it did suck. Yeah. I'm really grateful that we just kept going. Because a lot of the time with relationships, whether you have a dynamic or not, people give up and people leave. Yeah. And that's why, like, we're almost at our 3-year mark next month. And at 3 years and at 7 years is usually when couples break up. Mm. And it's because they don't push through, or their capacity to push through is just limited.
Yeah. And it's not a blindly, oh, I just want this to work, let's just keep on trying. No. It wasn't that. It was clear our foundation is there. Like, we can absolutely make this work. It makes all the sense in the world.
It feels so good. Yeah. It feels so natural.
We just needed to figure out these few details that were really fucking us up. Yeah. And so I remember we started therapy for a minute, and I think that was also probably a mistake of ours, that we stopped when we did instead of just figuring out how to continue, because we were unearthing stuff. We were still in the beginning phases of it, but we had that mouthpiece to help us understand what the other person was coming from. And we did have a few breakthroughs around that time that still have stuck with us to this day in terms of understanding each other. But I think, yeah, absolutely, for any couples having challenges in their relationships, get some therapy. Just have somebody there to help. It's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. Therapy is an amazing tool. Therapy is something that I just recommend for everybody.
Yeah, and I remember I was pushing for therapy before there was a problem. And the reason why I was doing that was because it's easier to talk through things when there's not an issue.
Right.
So I think another one of our faults in going to therapy is that we waited till there was a problem. So now we have to decipher this problem, and this is just kind of like a blimp on top of all the other things that we actually need to be in therapy for.
Right.
And it was just kind of distracting. So, like, I don't even think that we fully talked about what it was in therapy. It was kind of just like, okay, we talked about it and we're moving on from that.
Right.
But it was, I don't know, I just felt like it was kind of like this distracting thing that's just like, this is actually why we need to be here, and this is what we need to talk about. And I think it's so beautiful having those conversations. And though it's not traditional therapy, we do therapy with one another.
We do.
In lots of different ways. Sex is one, shrooms is another. And we have just really in-depth talks and really real, honest talks with one another. Whether it's a questionnaire that one of us found or created, or it's just, this is something I need to talk to you about, and I just need you to be really honest and open with me.
Yeah, we had a lot of hard conversations. I remember one or two we had, like, in the shower, in the tub on 53rd Street, and even a few we've had here, and we've always come out stronger on the other side. And it feels so good once the conversation is actually done. It feels so much better. They're hard in the moment, but
we just had one. Was that last night?
No, it's a couple nights ago, I think.
Yeah, it was night before last, and I feel better connected with you every time we have a deep conversation. And I think the reason why that happens is because we take it as seriously as we take anything. Like, as serious as we take our pleasure, we take those conversations, because it's like those almost go hand in hand. Like, you can't really have one without the other. And when we're just fully present, we're fully open and real with ourselves, one, and real with each other. And though it might be hard in the moment, or we'll have like mini moments of like, okay, we push through and we do it.
Yeah.
And I always feel closer to you in the end. And I think that's why we are lasting this long, and will continue to last.
Yes, we will. But yeah, so that first year was unfolding, and having and keep in mind, having a bunch of beautiful experiences along the way. Amazing experiences, sexually and non-sexually. Like, we still were amazingly good friends, just bonding on day-to-day shit, going through COVID together.
Our COVID experience was phenomenal. It was not like, at least the 2021, because we had the opportunity to just be in love.
Yeah.
Just be locked in a house and just have all the sex we want, all the kisses we want, and watch all the movies. And it was just a beautiful experience. I would never take that back.
Yeah.
2021 though? 2021 was, I feel like that's when it really hit us, the pandemic.
Because we got out the house a little bit.
Yeah.
We got outside a little bit.
And just the fatigue of it all, and the loss, and the change of self.
Yeah.
It was a lot, and I think it hit us more then. And I'm grateful for that, because at least we had this year of love where we knew that we could lean on each other.
Definitely. But it was a lot of love, enough love that we ended up starting the podcast.
Yeah.
Because I remember I told you within that first year about this idea I had for a podcast about getting a masculine and feminine perspective on just all conversations surrounding sex. But I didn't think it was going to be with my lover, though.
Yeah.
I just thought I had to find some woman out there. We could do a podcast together. It'd be great. But the fact that it was my actual partner and the love of my life and the woman I'm going to marry, it's like, oh, this is even better. Yeah. So we started prepping for the podcast, just hashing out exactly what we wanted to do. And then for a year, because we were still dealing with shit and just distractions of life and all that. So it took us probably about a year to finally say, all right, let's go. It's time. So we started it in May of last year, 2022. And out the gate, fun, amazing. We created this baby. It was like we just birthed the baby for real. Seriously. And we figured out the amount of work that went into it. And then
my God.
That was a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
That was a gift and a curse, because I think starting the podcast fucked us up in a sense even more, even though it's amazing. Like, for real, the shit is great. We see what we love doing here. It's not an act. This is really how we are. Everything that you've heard so far is exactly how we are. But in addition to that, on the back end that you don't see, so many hours in each other's faces, having to work on this shit, having to talk all the time, when sometimes we just want to break from each other, but we can't, because we got to put out an episode, or we got to put out a reel, or we got to come up with the next idea, or a number of other things that is forcing us to be around each other even more.
I think that's why people say, like, you shouldn't work with your partner.
I get it.
And I get it too. And it's not for the faint of heart.
No.
And yeah, like that's the tweet. It's not for the faint of heart. So I definitely see that. And I also see us transcending that and really prioritizing our baby, our business, and not just for the sake of a business and, you know, wanting it to grow into whatever, but for the sake of, this is something that we're both passionate about. This is something that we come alive to, and we can come alive with one another. But yeah, what did mess us up with that is neither one of us want to come on the mic and be inauthentic. Right. So if we're not in a good place, it's very hard to sit in front of a camera and 2 microphones and talk about sex, love, and relationships when you don't really like your partner, right, that you're having the sex and love with, in relationship with. So that's really what it was. That we didn't want to sit here and be hypocrites. Right.
Because the only time I could ever get on here is when I can muster up enough love and happiness, because we strung along, we managed to string along a solid week or two in our relationship. Like, all right, fucking, I feel good, let's go record. Like, and we were managing to kind of piece together through those small times of happiness, but it wasn't sustainable, and it just got worse and worse. And to the point where I couldn't even be creative. I couldn't even do it at all. So I'm just like, nah, I can't do it. And it's worse this last 3 months that we were off, where we really had to stop and figure our shit out, because it was coming to, the point where, like, yo, are we going to be able to do this or what together, in a relationship? I mean, like, at the end of the day, it don't matter how much love you have. If you can't figure this shit out, then eventually maybe you have to go. Yeah. But luckily, we figured it out. We're figuring it out. And we are here today to keep on bringing you this amazing content, because I think what we have here is amazing. And I think being able to let people in this way, I think it really can help people. I really see that happening, and I'm excited for what we have going on now. And yeah, it's 2023, baby.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that, yes, it can help the people listening, but the way it helps us too, it helps us to be present, because like I said, we want to be authentic on these mics. So it's like this extra incentive to figure our stuff out, and we have. And I feel like, and we've had, these last few months, we really created a strong foundation with one another where we like each other again. I like you.
I like you a lot.
I like you a lot.
I like you a lot.
I find myself missing you after I've seen you.
For like a day. Like,
Not even.
Not even. Oh, wow.
And, or like, just like that giddy, like new relationship energy. Like, I'm feeling that again. Good. Where I'm just really, in love and in like, more importantly, I'm in like with you.
Yeah.
And being back on this mic, I think is a strong representation of that. Because we're not trying to come back on this mic and then have another 4-month break.
Nah,
absolutely.
It's not happening.
So I think us coming back to this microphone, coming back to this podcast is kind of like a vow to our audience, but more importantly to each other, that we are good and we're going to stay good and we're going to do the work to ensure that that happens.
Yeah. As I sit here and listen to you say that, I realize how much this podcast and just BSOTB as a whole is a representation of us.
Yeah.
And like how people were like, yeah, it's more than a podcast, or it's more than fuck. Like, it's not that cliche shit, but it is more than those things for us in the sense that it's an extension of us. Exactly. It's an extension of us as people, because we love relationships and sex so much, and we love our relationship and our sex life so much, that this is a way for us to express ourselves in our relationship through having this podcast, and as creatives, because we're both pretty damn good at that too. So it's a way for us to just be, it's a way for us to express, it's a way for us to exist. So I think we can always look at this podcast and see where we are. It's a good measuring stick for where we are in our relationship. So I'm excited as we continue to grow. That means our relationship is growing. That means our sex life is continuing to get better, as it somehow magically always does. Yeah. So here we are now after the dust has settled, and we've decided to continue with this. And real quick, just thank everybody for bearing with us through this time. And
Thank you for your patience.
The comments have still been trickling in. People have been messaging us, hey, y'all still have the podcast? Are you getting started again?
Just asking if we broke up.
Yeah, we did not break up.
We are still loving each other strong.
We didn't. So we appreciate each and every one of y'all that have checked in with us during this time. No, really.
It's really meant a lot, and it's really helped propel us to figure our stuff out even faster. So we thank you and we love you so, so much.
Yes, and we are 100% committed to this, to our baby, to growing this, to continuing to connect with y'all. And as of late, we have been working on a lot of stuff in the background. I know we talked about the shirts a few months ago. Them shirts about to be on deck. Matter of fact, probably within the next few episodes, you're gonna see them. You're gonna see a guest appearance with the shirts.
The design's already created.
Yeah.
We just have to manifest them.
We'll handle that very shortly. Also, we are absolutely doing events. We're going to be hosting play parties. We have connected with quite a few people, especially quick shout out to Susia, New York, Brooklyn specifically. If you know, you know. But if you don't, definitely stay in tune for that, because we're going to have events collaborating with them. An amazing space, amazing vibes, because we all about the vibes. So that is coming within the next month or two, I would say. Yeah, for sure. In addition to that, we're gonna be doing workshops, because again, in having these relationships, we really gotta do the work. That's what we've been doing. That's the only way that we're here now, is from doing the work. And so we want to just be able to share with y'all step by step things that have worked for us, and just build with people and just grow our community in that way. So we're gonna have workshops coming soon too. If there's anything specific that y'all would be interested in hearing at a workshop, please let us know. We'd love to be able to incorporate those things. And what else we got going on?
We also have some amazing partnerships coming your way. We already posted about our partnership with Field, and Field is an incredible dating app where you can find couples and singles to really expand on your kinky, freaky experiences.
Yes, shout out to Field. So everybody that's been wanting to know, where we go to find others to explore and have good times with, definitely check out the link in our Instagram bio, and we'll add it to YouTube as well, and on our website, where you can download Field and explore. I think you get a free something. Holla at them, link in the bio for all that stuff. And we're interested. Let us know how it is. Every time we see somebody, but now we're starting to see people that we know on there. So yes, continue to build the community. Shout out to Field. They're doing amazing things. And we really use the app. You probably will see us on there if you just hop on.
Absolutely. Find me on Field.
Find me on Field. So with that being said.
Oh, last note. We moved.
Yes, we moved. New set. got the new crib. We actually in the bed now.
Yes.
So
we
now,
are in the bed.
yes, we are officially.
That was another thing that kind of kept us away from the pod. We had a crazy move.
2 months.
It was a crazy 2 months.
Oh my God.
So now we're finally settled. Everything is Gucci, and yes, this is the new set. So this is what you'll be seeing soon. We do have one episode about masturbation that will be dropping soon, and that's with our old set that we already recorded. So you'll see that once, but then you'll never see that set again.
Yeah. So let us know what y'all think. You like the set? You prefer the other one? We curious. Let us know.
If you prefer it, too damn bad.
That's all good. It's what you got. I don't know. Yeah, it's what you got. But yeah, with that being said, thank you for listening. We are really excited to be back. This is just the beginning. Like I said, we are committed to this, and we invite you into our family. So please stay tuned for the sexy.
Stay tuned for the sexy.
Until next time. Thanks for listening. Now here's some bonus content from an upcoming Patreon video.
I literally thought I was going crazy. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, that was back in our early beginnings when we didn't know a lot about a lot.
We didn't know a lot about a lot.
We didn't know a lot about what we were doing in a brand new Dom sub dynamic. And we didn't know a lot about each other.
Or a lot about being in love.
Or a lot about being in love, because you're my first love.
You're my first love.
Yeah, so that's a thing within itself. Because you'll go to greater lengths for somebody that you're in love with. I realize that's one of the first things. Yeah. Your patience is a lot higher, contrary to what you might think. My patience is a lot higher in my desire to want to make it work.
Yeah.
And not quit. But I didn't know much. I knew a little something.
You knew more than me.
I didn't know much though.
I thought like you were also really experienced in it.
Because that's how I exuded this energy. Like I really knew my shit.
Yeah. And you like mentioned like this is new for me too. And I remember thinking like the fuck are you talking about? This is new for you too. And it just didn't dawn on me for a really long time that this was new for you too.
I'm thinking there's only one way to really dominate, to fucking dominate and lay it down with an iron fist all the time. You know, and there might be moments where that's important. But from the examples that I saw, that was the only way. And then realizing that there are other ways that are just as powerful, that are just as effective, if not more effective. And I had to learn that there's more than one type of submissive.
For a while, you were just like my main source of understanding of it. Because again, my perception of where you were on this journey was just a lot different. You were expecting a service sub.
I was expecting when I said something and I gave direction in a certain way, that you would just carry out the instructions in the way that I wanted and not make it your thing, because you're used to doing your thing. But I didn't know the questions to ask in terms of really figuring out what kind of partner I could potentially have. So that was a big lesson for me to learn, like whatever type of dynamic that we want to have, make sure we ask, make sure number one, I'm clear in what I want, and then be clear in your ability to give me that. What kind of person am I being in this relationship? What kind of person do I want?
I think some things weren't agreed upon, but were assumed.
Definitely.
And then also assumed that they were agreed upon. So I'm just like confused. Like, did I agree to something that I didn't? And it's like, you're moving with such conviction that I did, that I was second guessing myself. I kind of lost my sense of self. Like I just wasn't doing it right. And it made me feel like, okay, he's gonna leave if I don't figure this out. You
were trying to do a version of submission that I didn't even want. It wasn't even the version I was asking. So
nor the one that I wanted. Because from what I was hearing, this is what I thought was expected. And this is like what subs do. And that's where the disconnect was. Why can't
I get through to you?
Yeah.
I was like, why can't you just get it? It's me. It's always me. Because I'm leading us and I'm supposed to be the one to be able to figure out a way to communicate with you in a way that works for you, in a way that gets the desired result. And so when it wasn't happening, it was like a blow to my own confidence in my ability to even do this. And that also made me not even want to do it half the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, this is not why I got into this shit. It's supposed to be relatively easy and just smooth.
And it was hard because he was like kind of eating at us in very negative ways, but we also saw where it could grow us, and just the potential that it had to bring us such a deep connection, such a deep pleasure, such deep growth in so many different aspects of our lives. And we held on to that, and that's why we just kept pushing. That's why we keep pushing,
because it makes so much sense for us. It's so natural
so much
for
sense.
us. That's why I was always like, I don't know, if we can't do it like this with a dynamic, I don't see it working.
Yeah.
Not
we had
because
like a millisecond, I would say like a 3-day span of time, we're like, okay, let's just take it out. And then we were just like, nah, it doesn't
feel right.
It's
right. Not because it's not possible. I'm sure we could figure out a way to do it. But it's not as enjoyable. It's not us. It's just not us. And I was thinking about it earlier when I was in the shower, and just how I think sex and kink is a way we express our love on a high level. Like, other people do other shit. Other people do other things to exemplify their love for each other. We like to fuck, and we like to do kinky, freaky shit.
Yeah, and everybody has sex, especially couples. Most couples have sex, but I think with us, it's just such on a deeper level, where it's like just the expression that we have is just so much deeper, and it's so reaffirming that just kind of makes everything else worth it. It's just like when things get extra hard, or if we're arguing a little too much, just some good old sex would just kind of be a reset button.
Because it could seem problematic that.
Yeah, I think it sounds crazy. As I was saying, I'm like, this is gonna sound crazy to people.
Yeah, but now I've thought about it in that way, and it's like, oh, y'all can't focus on a deeper level of connection because y'all are too focused on the sex. But no, I think
it's spiritual
really,
for us.
It's really that. It's that
literally
deep.
Like our prayer.
Yeah. It's like it's our own love language in a sense.
Yeah.
Moving with that, so I embrace it, and because we're out of whack when we don't have sex enough.
Out of whack.
We're out of whack, and it recalibrates us, and we feel bonded after that.
Gremlins, like when they're like these little Furbies, and then after midnight they don't eat, and they turn into these like evil ass gremlins. I feel like that's you and I. Like, after a certain amount of time, if we don't have sex, we just turn into these little
get hangry
terror monsters.
So yeah, we didn't like each other for a while.
You're mad annoying.
You are mad annoying. There's no word. You are.
You are annoying too.
There's a lot of shit going on.
There's a lot happening.
Moving, family shit.
Yeah.
Career shit. Us shit.
Yeah.
A lot of shit.
It was a lot of shit happening.
I think the last little bit of residue from our struggles is kind of shaking itself off.
Yeah.
I feel like there's still a little bit there. Let's just be honest. It's a little bit there. And we will be going to therapy. And so we could talk about some things that we unearthed along that process.
Yeah.
Because I look forward to that. And I think that any couple with any time in and any real skin in the game should do therapy. Because it's fucking hard to be in relationships sometimes. It's hard, actually.
It's a lot of work. It's challenging.
Yeah, because we don't necessarily want simple for ourselves. We're not really simple people.
Yeah, but this last little bit that we're shaking off, I'm proud of it though. Like, I feel like we had two pretty annoying, I wouldn't say big, but I would say pretty annoying arguments in the last few weeks. But it was at a point where it was just like almost every day.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of that. I feel like we're having more good days than bad.
At the worst of it, we were just completely burnt out.
Yeah.
We were just completely burnt. And I think having the podcast just exacerbated it, because it's this pressure to show up and do this thing.
And show up and be perfect. Yeah. This goal couple.
Well, I never felt that, because I know that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I know people will interpret our relationship however they're going to interpret it. Like, we can't control that, but so much. Yeah. So I wasn't concerned about the being perfect part, but I think in the being consistent and showing up, like we've created this thing. People are tuning in and expecting something from us, and like looking forward to hearing more. And just the week after week of not having anything to talk to them about was very deflating for me.
Yeah, that brought a lot of shame for me. It was really disappointing. It's been disappointing, kind of just going MIA, and I'm really grateful and I'm really excited to be back. New set, new vibes. But it was definitely hard, and it felt like a reflection of our relationship, of just where we were at, where it's like we can't even show up there.
Yeah, no, because as much as I wanted to do it and want to do it and love doing this, I was not in a space to be creative and talk about anything remotely fun about our sex life or our just relationship in general in a positive, when there was just so much groundwork that needed to be done to repair things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just didn't want to show up and put together just some shit just for the sake of putting out an episode. I couldn't do that.
Yeah, being fake is just not really in our DNA. And I'm glad that we're doing this and being honest. And one thing that I love about this platform that we've created is that it's what we make it, you know? And I think that moving in honesty and moving in just actuality, like what's really happening with us.
Yeah.
I think it just makes it more authentic, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, and I'm proud to say that even in the midst of all the shit in the background that was going on, that when we did show up on the mics, that it was still real. There was nothing not real about that. So anything that y'all have ever heard that we've talked about, it's all been real through that. It's just you can only do but so much before you have to focus and really sink your teeth into your issues and your challenges and repair it, or else it's gonna come to a head, because it came to a fucking head.
Yeah.
I want to be able to get to the depths of our relationship and be clear and just strong in our roles in our relationship, now that we've learned a lot more about what that truly means.
We actually have the knowledge, and we have the capacity to implement it, and I think that's really beautiful. I think that for a lot of people who, I feel like if somebody else was in our situation and had our exact same experience but didn't have the level of love that we have, I don't think that it would have lasted. And we have the love to push forward even when it's hard. And now we have the knowledge to just make it better, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, definitely being a team, like all-star team. Just really being on point. I want our business to be thriving. I want our brand to be thriving and really connecting with people and being of service to people with what we're creating here, and just really grow this thing.
And it's growing.
Yeah, it's damn sure growing. Appreciate y'all for all the people that have been following us over the last 2 months, as we get closer to the end of 2022, when we were just not posting, but still seeing the numbers growing, still seeing people downloading the podcast and connecting with us. We appreciate y'all. And for those who have held on, and we just take a second to thank y'all for holding on when there was nothing there.
It's definitely been a fire under us.
Yeah, but that motivates me just within itself, knowing that people have been rocking with us that strongly, that even in the midst of that, they held on long enough to
it's a blessing.
Let us get back on track.
A real blessing that we don't take for granted. So thank you.